from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late-night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media, your liberty-loving Latino amigo. Happy to be here with you, Wednesday night edition of the program. We're live, we're national, and you're invited to give us a call, 833-482-5337, 833-4-Valdez. And I want to get into some of the talk today. The big story that I keep seeing is that Kamala Harris is preparing to run for president of the United States. That's Vice President Kamala Harris. Now, of course, you've got President Biden, who has, through sources, now agreed, and he's saying to folks at the Washington Times, Katie Rogers is writing earlier this afternoon, that President Joe Biden has told key allies that he knows the coming days are crucial and understands that he may not be able to salvage his candidacy if he can't convince voters that he is up to the job after his disastrous debate performance last week. Now, you've got a lot of Democrats that are out there beating the drum. One of them is this guy from Texas, Lloyd Doggett, who's just out there really beating Biden up. In Cut 25, he makes it very, very clear that Biden should get out of the way and make room for another Democrat who can actually take down Trump. Listen to this.
I hope that he will put country first. I know Trump would never do that, but that he will put country first and decide to step aside, give us a fair, open, democratic with a small d convention and a lead up to that convention. I think there are a number of candidates that could come in and provide us a stronger message in trying to prevent a Trump authoritarian takeover.
A Trump authoritarian dictatorship, right? A takeover, as if this man is not leading in polls and running for president, right? It's an election. So some people forget how that works. But Doggett had a lot more to say. He went on to say that Biden really, really needs to step out of this presidential race. Check this out.
You can tell I'm not the most youthful member there, and I'm not the most endangered member. And I thought it was time for me to speak up, not for any self-gain, but because I think the risk to our country is so great, and we need to have the strongest candidate possible in order to assure that the values that we hold for our democracy are not traded for an authoritarian strongman bent on revenge against his opponents.
Now, Doggett is continuing to beat the drum, talking about the authoritarian strongman and Donald Trump, you know, the one that the people are seemingly very interested in voting for. But then he goes in to tell the truth about why he's not looking to vote for Biden. Well, quite frankly, he was underwhelmed by his debate performance. Check this out.
You know, when my wife and I watched the debate last Thursday, we were so hoping for the momentum to overcome the lag that we've had in the last year. Instead, we were disappointed to see lies by Trump not refuted effectively and effective defense of the successes of the Biden administration.
Now, Doggett would not be complete if he didn't just, stick a knife in Joe Biden. That's really, in my opinion, it's seemingly what he's done, because he's all but, asking him to get out of the race, saying he can't win. This is not the right time. All of these, things he's hinting and insinuating at. And I think he's made his case, his case pretty clear. However, Patrick Bet-David's group, Valuetainment, they've got a report here that explains why. Because nobody can take on El Trompito Donaldus Magnus except for maybe a draft of Michelle Obama. Listen to this.
The former First Lady Michelle Obama is the only hypothetical replacement for President Joe Biden who can beat former President Donald Trump in the 2024 election, according to a stunning Reuters Ipsos poll. The recent poll reveals that nearly 60% of respondents, including 33% of Democrats, think Biden should drop out of the race. In contrast, only 50% say the same about Trump. Even with Biden's age and debate performance under scrutiny, none of his potential replacements seem capable of clinching a Democratic win, except for one. In hypothetical matchups, Trump narrowly defeats California Governor Gavin Newsom and Vice President Kamala Harris, though Harris scores 2 points higher than Biden. But here's the game changer. In a head-to-head, Michelle secures a commanding 50% support against Trump's 39%, with only 4% abstaining. Her 55% favorability rating eclipses all other Democratic contenders. Yet despite this overwhelming support, Michelle insists she won't run for president.
Now, listen, I'm not in the prediction business, but if I had to guess, I would say no. I don't think she runs. Doesn't seem to make the financial sense. Now, I know some could say, come on, this is exactly what they want. The gravy train, the government contracts, this, that, and the other. They love this town. And that may be true. I think they're the only couple that didn't move back home to where they came from, right? They came from the Midwest, Chicago. And who didn't move back there? Barack and Michelle. They got a place in Georgetown. They live in D.C. Who would have thought, right? Every other president's like, we're getting the heck out of Dodge. So I wonder, what is the story here? Well, I don't know. But I think if we pay attention to what's going on, it seems to me that Michelle Obama will not run. She'd much rather quickly tap Vice President Kamala Harris, that you heard is only within 2 points of getting beat by Donald Trump. And they probably think, you know what, this is probably the better candidate. An African-American woman that we can try to, peddle to the masses as the diversity candidate, or, the best candidate, the only candidate out there that could take on Donald Trump, however they decide to paint it. But ultimately, that seems to be the angle they want to take, to get people to appeal to their different sensibilities, not just because she's a woman, but because she's a minority woman. And I think that's oftentimes how some on the left operate. Others are very issue-based. I don't think Kamala's a strong candidate on any issue. So the question becomes, if Kamala is in, who is her running mate? I don't know the answer to that. But in a little bit, we're going to bring in a guest that I'm going to ask, and I am hoping they will predict. And I have a feeling that they probably have some insight, right? They probably have some I'm going to say insider knowledge as to why they would make the choice that they make. So we're going to get to that momentarily, as well as a lot more, right? There's this ad that I want to play for you that shows what might happen if we restrict the sale of condoms, if we go into a more hyperbolic way of thinking. So we're going to get to that. But again, the big prediction from our upcoming guest, Congressman Matt Gaetz from Florida. Matt Gaetz is going to join us momentarily, and we're going to find out his prediction on who Kamala Harris would choose for vice president if, in fact, she runs for president. And it seems that way, with the New York Times putting a story out today saying that Joe Biden has told key allies that he knows the coming days are crucial and understands he may not be able to salvage his candidacy. So we're going to find out what's going on straight ahead with Congressman Matt Gaetz. Don't go anywhere. I'm Rich Valdez.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Well, thank you, Rich, and thank you for everything. I know you very well, and I listen, but I have a lot of people that listen, and they love your show, and I appreciate it very much.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
So you've got Vice President Kamala Harris, and she says, listen, Joe is going to be the nominee. Everybody rest assured. And her delegates are saying they're going to burn everything down if she gets passed over, if Joe El Baboso Biden were to disappear. Listen to this.
And speaking about stakes, you just came out of a fundraiser. We know that many in your party have expressed concerns about President Biden's health. Just this morning, Congressman Gaetz said that he's calling on President Biden to withdraw from the race, given that there's too much at stake to risk a Trump victory. What's your response to this?
Look, Joe Biden is our nominee. We beat Trump once, and we're going to beat him again, period.
Are you ready to lead the country if necessary?
I am proud to be Joe Biden's running mate.
That is Vice President Kamala Harris. And, of course, I'm Rich Valdez. Welcome back. I want to bring in our guest, Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz. Welcome back, sir.
It is great to be with you, Rich. I don't know, man. Is your lie detector going off when you hear that? Do you hear a person who is all in on the future prospects of Joe Biden, or do you hear someone who is like checking his pulse every time she shakes his hand at this stage of the game? What we're hearing from Democrats on Capitol Hill is that they think if Joe Biden is the nominee, they will lose the Senate. They might lose 30 or 40 seats in the House of Representatives. Panic is at a zenith, and that's because of two things. One, Joe Biden had a disastrous debate, and two, there is now a prevailing thinking that Democrats have been gaslighting the country about his condition. This is the president of the United States. This is not like some uncle that you haven't checked in on in 6 months, right? I mean, there are people around Joe Biden 24/7, and it's not as if what all of us saw on that debate stage just emerged in the last several days. This is something that has been occurring, and frankly, I think the American people need to go beyond Joe Biden to holding the entire Democratic Party accountable to lying to the rest of us about his condition.
Matt Gaetz, I think you're right that this rhetoric from Kamala Harris is fake, phony, and fraud. But I agree with you. I do agree with you. People are saying, you know what, we've been lied to, we've been duped. I was listening to Carl Bernstein yesterday, and he was saying it seems like there's two versions of Joe Biden. And he's almost sounding like a conspiracy theorist. And I'm laughing because I think, man, things are not well on the other side of the aisle, which is great for our side, great for America. I just don't know that. I think that to me, it sounds like Kamala Harris is being political. She's saying these things to make sure that she's the replacement should they try to get rid of Biden. And I think that's where the contention is. What do you think?
Well, undeniably, she's the replacement. Like, what? You think Gavin Newsom's the replacement? You think the modern Democratic Party could jump over a woman of color for a straight white guy? Like, straight white guys are an endangered species in the Democratic Party right now. They are, like, hunted for their pelts. And so the concept that they're going to move beyond Kamala Harris is pretty laughable. But, the Bernstein reporting was jarring. I'm glad you drew a fine point on it because Bernstein said, well, the people who are around Biden all the time, who actually run the government, they say he has some lucid moments between 10 a.m. and 4 p.m. But if you get outside of 10 a.m. to 4 p.m., you get a very different Joe Biden, kind of the two Joe Bidens you referenced. And I don't know, is it too much for the most powerful country in the world to ask that our leader be lucid at all moments or capable of critical decisions maybe before 10 a.m.? Here's what I can tell you about President Trump. There is no hour of the day or night he has not called me at some point. Like 2 a.m., 4 a.m., he is always processing, always thinking. This is a guy who's watching what's going on around the world constantly. And while there's been a lot of attention paid to the very declining state of our current president, I think people need to focus on how good Donald Trump was during the debate. He was exquisite. He was focused. He was disciplined. I had a chance to spend a lot of time with him before the debate. We rode on Trump Force One together to Atlanta, and this was the guy who's dialed in, not just for a 90-minute debate, but to lead the country. And I think a lot of Americans who wanted to see that gear that he can get into, where it's about the economy, the border, it's about crime, it's about restoring America's standing in the world. You saw the very best of Donald Trump, and I think that's what we're going to get in his second term.
Undoubtedly, Congressman Matt Gaetz. And, folks, I want to remind you, we're on with Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz. Now, Matt Gaetz, in addition to the crazy that we're seeing going on with Kamala Harris and seems like there's a push. I don't know if the push is coming from her or anybody else, but it seems like Rep. Barbara Lee is out there saying things that, we're confident in Biden's decision to stay or not to stay. And it seems like they're starting to put the writing on the wall. And listen, I don't know about you, but I'd rather have Donald Trump run against Kamala Harris. What say you?
Well, Kamala Harris scares a lot of suburban voters more than even declining Joe Biden does, because she's expressed viewpoints that are so far out of the mainstream. And I know a lot of women in this country who were really hopeful for Kamala Harris. They thought she would be an inspiration, and instead she's turned out to be an embarrassment. And so the fact that she wouldn't even earn it in her own right, she wouldn't even go through the primary process, that they would just swap her in like it's some sort of Mississippi square dance where you can change partners, is antithetical to the notion of democracy. Rich, haven't we heard for the last 2 years that the Democrats are the great defenders of democracy, and we Republicans, we hate democracy and we hate our institutions? And what did you see from Republicans? A spirited primary contest, strong candidates like Ron DeSantis, Vivek Ramaswamy, people who've all come to Trump's camp now. And on the Democratic side, they weren't even allowed to have a debate. They weren't even allowed to really have primaries. And now that we look at that, aren't they the weaker for it? Weren't we stronger because we were willing to put iron on iron, put our best on our best?
Well, in reality, we were more diverse. And it's funny as it is to say that. And what's even more interesting is how the Democrats didn't even put Biden on the ballot in a bunch of different places. It was a foregone conclusion, which I thought was interesting. We hadn't seen that before.
No, the great defenders of democracy actually prefer candidates who don't have to face elections, which is a bit of an irony. I mean, Rich, it's not even just here. It's in Ukraine. I mean, they want us to vote for tens of billions of dollars to Ukraine, and Zelensky just canceled presidential elections. Now, maybe I'm getting a little long in the tooth and becoming a little old-fashioned, but I actually prefer democracies that hold elections.
Yeah. I'm with you there. I'm old school like that. We still vote around here. That's crazy.
Right. And there were those who I think thought that a competitive primary would be challenging for the Republicans, would show division, would show that we couldn't unify. But look what you've seen. You've seen DeSantis, and you've seen so many of the other contestants who had vote share saying, look, we're in a special time right now where only Trump can fight the weaponization. Only Trump can seal the border with the strong executive action we need. We got to get this inflation under control. I mean, Trump handed Biden 1.4% inflation, and Biden took that to 9%. And it's not a punchline. It's not a talking point. It savages people. If you're in a family budget right now and you're having to worry about the groceries, the medicine, the fuel, it is a really challenging time. And we didn't feel that way under Trump. We were seeing our trade deals re-energized. We were seeing capital come into our country. The businesses were growing and hiring more. And it's hard to even remember all the things Trump did to make that happen, but we remember how we felt. And that is the inspiration that will draw us to victory.
Amen to that. Folks, we're on with Congressman Matt Gaetz from Florida discussing the potential for a Kamala Harris candidacy. Don't go anywhere. We're coming right back. And if you want to join the conversation, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. Don't move a muscle. Coming right back with Congressman Matt Gaetz. I'm Rich Valdez.
Mr. Call Screener, who is a budding radio star, by the way. Richie Valdez is terrific.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
I will support her if he were to step aside. But I want to support her going forward sometime in the future. I want this ticket to continue to be Biden-Harris. And then we'll see what happens after the next election. No, this party should not in any way do anything to work around Ms. Harris. We should do everything we can to bolster her, whether it's in second place or at the top of the ticket.
All right, America, welcome back, amigos. And that was Congressman James Clyburn. Now, you remember him. He was the linchpin for Biden in getting that nomination after they structured that deal with Bernie Sanders. And isn't it interesting now? He's saying, I still want Biden, but if. And I think that's pretty funny. Anyway, Rich Valdez here with you straight till 1 a.m. Eastern time. And I want to bring our guest back in, Florida Congressman Matt Gaetz, the firebrand himself. Matt Gaetz, when you hear Clyburn saying, look, we want Biden-Harris, but, you know, we'll take Harris, what do you think?
If you read between the lines in that answer, you are able to observe the depth and breadth of the Democrat panic that's going on right now. And, you know, Jim Clyburn, you set it up perfectly. This is the man almost singularly responsible for the election of Joe Biden in the Democratic primary. I mean, Joe Biden was running fourth in New Hampshire before Clyburn, a South Carolina congressman, jolted Biden to the front of the pack and then resolved the other candidacies, and who knows what deals took place then. But in Clyburn's voice, you hear the concern about Joe Biden's ability to lead us into the future. You see, when we talk about the future in the America First movement, we talk about where President Trump can take us, where his policies and ideas and trade deals can bring the American worker and the American taxpayer. And when Democrats talk about the future, they can't even do so invoking the specter of Joe Biden, because, like, we've all just opened the 2024 vintage of Joe Biden, and we don't exactly think that, like, the 2027 and 2028 version of this wine is going to be tasting a lot better. Like, who among us thinks we're going to be getting a better Joe Biden in 1 or 2 or 3 years or months or days even? And we shouldn't expect that just because someone can muster a performance in front of a teleprompter for 8 strong minutes, that they can go toe-to-toe with Vladimir Putin or Xi or even the corrupt forces within our own government that have to be confronted. President Trump is ready for that fight. He showed it on the debate stage. And now my mission in the United States Congress is to make sure that we're better prepared for the second term of Trump than we were the first. Rich, I was deeply frustrated, as many were, when we had the Paul Ryan and Mitch McConnell version of legislating Republicans, and we didn't get done what we needed on the border and on Obamacare repeal. And so now we've got a new brand of inspired America First conservatives who really Donald Trump has brought into lawmaking, and we're hoping to have his back to get all that great work accomplished very quickly.
I'm on board for that. Amigos, we're on with Congressman Matt Gaetz from Florida. Now, Congressman, you do a bang-up job in Congress. You do a bang-up job outside beating the drum for America First and for keeping the country in the right place. However, should you be called on for a different role in this upcoming anticipated, God willing, administration, second Trump term, what do you do? Do you say, hey, I belong in Congress, or do you say, absolutely, ready to serve?
I belong in Congress. I think nobody ever quits jobs. They quit bosses. And my bosses are the folks who live in Northwest Florida. My district is made up of bases and beaches, shimmering white sands, and patriots who fly in the Blue Angels and who go deepest into the fight with the 7th Special Forces Group. So I love what I do. I love my job. I'm not looking for a different one. And I want to restore the people's house. You know, we just had this Supreme Court decision, the Chevron decision, and pardon me for getting a little legal nerdy, but for most of my life, whenever a regular person fought against the bureaucracy of government, the law was that the government got the presumption of correctness. And you had to prove that they were so beyond their stated authority that they ought to be constrained. And now, for like the first time, the American people go into any fight against the government on a level playing field. President Trump created that dynamic with his conservative Supreme Court picks, but I think it unlocks a lot of potential in the House of Representatives where I work to actually form out the limits on the powers of federal government. President Trump has talked about abolishing unconstitutional agencies like the Department of Education when they go beyond the scope of their authority. And I can't imagine missing that. I can't imagine missing the chance to reshape this country in a way that puts the people first.
It's a tremendous opportunity. I totally agree. And listen, I think that this is the time, right? This is not only the time where we've got, as Biden would have it, we've got a convicted felon with 4 felony counts, 91 different charges, 400 years in jail, all this craziness that likely will be gone soon enough. And then who I like to call Que Mala Eres, the Vice President of the United States, who seemingly is going to be replacing Joe Biden. The New York Times is reporting that Biden says he realizes he only has days to salvage his campaign. So I think the Biden-Harris campaign is likely going to become the Harris who knows who campaign. Who do you think is a potential VP, Rich, if you want to play that game?
Yeah. Oh, you're a step ahead of me. So I'm going to go and make the call on your show. I think we're running against Harris Whitmer. I think they want to make. Yeah, I think they want the Wicked Witch of the Midwest, and she was like the lockdown queen. But I think there's going to be a desire to try to make abortion the central issue of this election. But if you actually go back and watch that debate, how President Trump showed, I think, a real conservative, a real constitutional position, but a position that was deferential to the states. I think he was really, really good on that issue. You know, when we were talking about how that portion would go, there was a discussion about really how to frame it that was accommodating to people of all views. And I think President Trump nailed it on that question, and I think it's why they're going to go with like the Harris Whitmer ticket. Who do you got, Rich? I want to know your thing.
You know, I hear a lot of talk about Governor Wes Moore, and I know that they have this affinity for DEI and all of that. I think I like what you're saying because she kind of checks that box because she's a woman and she's a governor. So I don't know. It's a coin toss for me, Congressman Matt Gaetz, but I think you're probably right and in the running. Either way, it's a bloodbath in my opinion. I don't see this working out well for anybody. I went to a barbecue with some Cubans. And Cubans traditionally are Republican, as you likely know. But these Cubans were like, we don't like Trump, right? So I hung out with them for Noche Buena, which is the Christmas Eve celebration. And they were like, look, we like you. We respect what you do on your radio show, but we're not with Trump. And I was like, that's fine. Merry Christmas. Now I see them for Father's Day, and how the tune has changed. Matt Gaetz, they're telling me, listen, you're in. They're shaking my hand. Congratulations, you've won. It's a done deal, signed, sealed, and delivered. And I thought it's interesting what 6 months makes, right? And the reason why is because they've totally lost faith in their candidate. They know Kamala can't rescue this. They don't think Michelle Obama can rescue this. There's no time to get her on enough ballots. This is it. It's over. It's done. It's a wrap. Even RFK Jr., who makes sense on 2 or 3 issues, still, even him, there's not enough gravitas there. This is Donaldus Magnus, El Trumpito, as I like to call him, Donald J. Trump, the 45th president of the United States, who's, I believe, going to take this home. I don't see how you stop the Trump train here.
Wait, hold on. At this Cuban barbecue, was there a cajachina? Did you have
Yes,
the
sir. There was a cajachina, and they had, like, I don't know, a 70-pound pig in there. It was fantastic. Pernil all day.
Oh, yeah, with the mojo sauce, of course.
Yes.
No other way to have it. A good Florida man knows his way around a Cuban barbecue. But I think what you're tapping into there is a nostalgia for that Trump economy. Working people in this country had bigger goals and bigger dreams, and there was this sense that you could do anything because we were a nation on the upswing under Trump. And you know, during Obama, we were told that we had to accept a 1.4% growth rate, that it was just going to be this way from now on. And I saw how Donald Trump put this economy in this country on his back, and he carried us to roaring success. And that's a unifying thing, Rich. A lot of people want to criticize Trump for being divisive, but you know what's unifying? When there's more money in the bank account for the family at the end of the month.
Amen to that.
When you can go out on that extra dinner. You know, according to LendingTree.com, 50% of the people in this country right now view a trip to a fast food outlet as a luxury. And I got no problem with fast food, but the way prices have increased under Joe Biden, it's fundamentally changed the American way of life. negatively. And however you feel about mean tweets or Trump's, a particular style, I think what's going to bring this country together is how the economy will get better and your job will be more secure and you'll have a sense of more hope for your kids and grandkids. I mean, right now we've got a guy who soils his pants on his way to meet the Pope and can't finish a sentence in a debate. That's no vision for the future of America.
Absolutely not. Now, Congressman Matt Gaetz, for the 4th of July, which is coming up tomorrow, are you going to be at a Cuban barbecue at a Cajachina?
I am not. I'm going to be at the Boggy Bayou firework display in Niceville, Florida, my hometown. My wife and I have got the picnic blanket ready. We're going to go out there and enjoy some hot dogs and some smoked ribs and some fireworks and some true Americana. The district I represent in the Panhandle of Florida, the highest concentration of military service members and veterans in the country. And so 4th of July is really a very special day in our community, and we celebrate the greatness of this country. We're so blessed to call our home.
Well, this program certainly celebrates their service, and we thank them for it. I want to thank you for staying up late and being with us tonight. And I want to wish you an amazingly blessed Independence Day, you, your wife, everybody in the district, and everybody across the country.
Thanks, Rich. There's no one I'd rather stay up late with, brother. Take it easy.
You're the man, brother. Thank you. And, folks, we're coming right back. Your calls and more. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. Now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
All right, America, welcome back. Rich Valdez with you straight till 1 a.m. Eastern time. And really interesting conversation with Congressman Matt Gaetz. I appreciate him coming on. And I want to pull on this thread a little bit about Kamala stepping up to be the nominee, Joe Biden stepping down, stepping aside. And I got a video a little while ago from my buddy, Mr. Producer Rich Cementa. It's on his Rumble account if you want to check it out. And I want you to hear it. It's of President Trump on the golf course, some people that bump into him on the golf course. And imagine, right? Just imagine you're on the golf course and you bump into who? Donaldus Magnus El Trompito, the 45th president of these United States. And you're like, hey, man, let me talk a little politics with this guy. And he gives you the time of day. And he's like, yeah, I think the guy's terrible, this and that, whatever. And you really just start to engage and find out what's going on. Well, I think that's exactly what happened. Check this out.
You gave me so much. How did I do with the debate the other night?
Oh, fantastic.
He kicked that old broken down pile of crap.
Yeah.
It's a bad guy. He just quit, He's quitting the race.
Is that right?
Yep, I got him out of the race. And that means we have Kamala. I think she's going to be better. She's so bad. She's so pathetic.
It's so amazing.
It's just so bad. So
I just can't imagine.
But can you imagine that guy dealing with Putin and the president of China, who's a fierce person? He's a fierce man.
Right.
A very tough guy, and they see him. They probably he can't. But they just announced he's probably quitting.
Good.
Very good.
Yeah, that's amazing.
You just keep knocking him out, right?
Thank you, Thomas.
And there you have it, a quick conversation with President Trump saying, yeah, he knocked him out of the race. Did you hear that? Of course, he's talking about this piece in the New York Times that is according to his own sources, right? According to Biden's sources, President Joe Biden has told key allies that he knows the coming days are crucial and understands that he may not be able to salvage his candidacy if he can't convince voters that he is up for the job after this disastrous debate performance last week. Now, according to the two allies who've spoken with him, Biden has emphasized that he's still deeply committed to the fight for re-election, but understands that his viability as a candidate is on the line. The president sought to project confidence on Wednesday in a call with his campaign staff. even as White House officials are trying to calm nerves amongst the rank and file inside the administration, saying things like Biden coming out saying things like, no one's pushing me out. And he said that on the call, I'm not leaving. And good for him, for sticking with it. I just don't know if he's actually going to stick with it because it just doesn't seem that way, right? There seems to be no advantage for Joe Eduardo Biden to stay in the race. So I don't know. What do we do? How do we do? Well, we're going to get to the bottom of that a little bit more straight ahead. Your calls and more are coming up as well. 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. America at Night with Rich Valdez.
Have an afternoon nap every day. Let me be very clear about this. This is a president that wakes up every morning and puts the American people first. That's what he does. He does that every single day. That is his focus. I am not going to speak to sources out there, unnamed sources out there. That's not what I'm going to speak to. I'm going to speak to what I know, what this president does, and how he is committed to the work of the president, of the commander-in-chief.
All right, that is Karine Jean-Pierre saying she's not answering this, she's not answering that, she's dodging questions. Is the president taking naps every day or what? But Jackie Heinrich continues with questions, as do the rest of the media. Everybody has a question. Listen to this.
Can you also clarify Sunman's question?
Sure.
I mean, how is it that the president was still tired 12 days after returning from Europe, had a cold, but then went to the Waffle House, and then the following day staged such a huge comeback that he gave those North Carolina remarks? Like, help us understand.
Have you had a cold before?
Of course I've had a cold before.
So you probably, well, come on, Jackie. Let's be very, let's be.
12 days after he returned, though.
But
and
you
he
also,
blamed jet lag yesterday.
Hold on a second. There's a cold, there's a jet lag. You combine that. He continues to work on for the American people day in and day out, around the clock. Things happen.
Things happen. Let me ask you a question. Did Donald Trump ever take a nap? I never heard Trump take a nap. Matter of fact, I'm going to tell you something. I spoke with Trump after he was released from Walter Reed when he got COVID that time, and I was on the phone with him. He sounded a little raspy, but he was right back at it. And then, I don't know, a day later, maybe 2 days later, I was at the White House, and he had just come back from the hospital, but he was not making rounds with everybody because they'd accuse him of being a super spreader. Instead, he came to the Ellipse. He was on the balcony, said hello, gave a whole speech, did all that, and said, hey, I'm just coming back from the hospital, whatever it was. And class act. And that's how it is. You never hear anybody taking off a day off for a little bit of a raspy throat or jet lag or this or that. Imagine if we did that in radio, right? Sometimes we have to travel, and you never even know where we're broadcasting from because sometimes there's a lot of travel. Imagine me saying, or even, big guys like the great one, Mark Levin. Big shout out to Mark Levin, by the way. And just signed another multi-year deal with our network, Westwood One. Congratulations to the great one. It's one of the best in the business, a mentor and a friend to me, and I appreciate him. So congrats. But just imagine if we try to pull a fast one like that. Anyway, folks, I see your calls. I wanted to get to you, but there wasn't a ton of time. Don't go anywhere. I'm going to get to you shortly. And let us continue with the rest of our program. Hour number 2 is coming up straight ahead. Don't go anywhere. I'm Rich Valdez.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Welcome to hour number 2 of the program. It's our it's our Wednesday night edition. It's the eve of Independence Day. I hope everybody's going to have an amazing 4th of July this weekend. And I want to get into a couple of headlines. Biden says nobody's pushing him out of the race as Democrats panic about the upcoming election in November. You've got the delegates for Vice President Harris. Some of them are threatening to blow up the whole Democrat Party if they choose a white man over her because she's next in line for the presidency. So things are not running smoothly for the Democrats with Biden, not only a poor debate performance, but really just looking very tired, very fatigued, and just not up to the task. So that means he can't take on El Trompito Donaldus Magnus, the 45th president of these United States, because you need energy, you need some bravado, you need a word I learned when growing up in Brooklyn, chutzpah. You need it, right? You just have to be able to bring your A game, and that's not happening. So what ends up happening? Well, you've got people predicting that que mala eres is going to be out of the race. One of those is President Trump himself. We got a clip of him on the golf course. Imagine you're on the golf course and you hear the former president telling you, "Oh yeah, she's effing bad," and these are fierce people that are out there, these leaders, and you need somebody solid. And he's not lying about any of it. But listen to what Trump had to say.
You gave me so much. How did I do with the debate the other night?
Oh, amazing.
Kicked that old broken down pile of crap.
Yeah.
It's a bad guy. He just quit, He's quitting the race.
Is that right?
Yep, I got him out of the race. And that means we have Kamala. I think she's going to be better. She's so bad. She's so pathetic.
It's so amazing.
It's just so bad. So
I just can't imagine.
But can you imagine that guy dealing with Putin and the president of China, who's a fierce person? He's a fierce man.
Right.
A very tough guy, and they see him. They can't. But they just announced he's probably quitting.
Good.
Very good.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Just keep knocking him out, right?
Thank you.
And again, Trump making reference likely to the article in the New York Times today that says Biden tells allies he knows he only has days to salvage his candidacy. I don't know how many days he's talking about. If the article came out today, tomorrow's a holiday. Most people are taking Friday, Saturday off. So what is it? By Monday, we're going to announce Biden's out? I hope so. I think it would be great to see Trump mop the floors with que mala eres, the vice president of the United States. But I want to talk about that. I want to talk about what's going on in the Middle East, as well as a number of other things. So I want to bring in our guest. He's somebody that you know before. You've seen him run for Congress. You've seen him as the head of the Iranian Americans for Liberty organization, and he's also the CEO of Henry Public Relations. Bryan Leib, welcome back, sir.
Hey, Rich, good to be with you, man. How's everything?
Thank God, man. Thank God. We're doing well. Things are looking up. There's, since I last saw you a couple of months ago, I think we're doing so much better, right? I think Trump is blowing away the polls. You've got Biden just blowing away his own candidacy. Things could be worse.
Well, I mean, for Rich, for sure, I think, from a political perspective, things are definitely getting a lot better for our side. But where things are continuing to get worse is for you and me and the vast majority of the American people that, are still, struggling to put food on the table and struggling to find good paying jobs. And, with the cost of living going up and everything just being a lot more expensive, there is a lot happening good politically, but also when I'm out, out knocking doors and talking to people all throughout, the community down here in Florida. People are really frustrated, Rich. They're frustrated about the economy. They're frustrated about inflation. They're frustrated about the flow of illegal immigrants coming through our southern border. So, there's a lot to look forward to, but, we have to vote a certain way in November for those things to happen. So
100% right, Bryan Leib. You can't count your electoral eggs until they hatch. That's for sure.
Amen. Amen.
And I'm with you on that. We got to fight like we're behind. And you're right. Listen, I've got kids. I've got an 18-year-old that's working 2 jobs. My daughter's out from college right now. She's 18. She'll be 19 in a month or two. And she's working 55 hours a week. She might do 60 this week, right? And she's doing okay with money, but she's doing okay because she lives at home. And it just reminds me of when I was her age. I used to work those kind of hours too, but I made a lot more money, and it's because the economy was a lot more solid back then when I was her age. My other daughter, she's 23, and she's got 3 jobs. She's got a job on campus, one off campus, and another little side hustle there. And I'm just, I admire their work ethic, Bryan Leib, but I realize they have to work like this in order to survive in today's economy, the Biden economy.
Yeah, of course they do, Rich. I mean, listen, everything is more expensive. Simple items like putting food on the table and, eggs and bread, or, taking care of your home, cleaning supplies, paper towels. I mean, I don't know when the last time, you went to buy paper towels is, but, I was in CVS just the other day, and I just very quickly had to get like a roll of paper towels. And like a single roll of like Bounty paper towels, it was like $6.99. A single roll of paper towels is $6.99.
Yeah.
So
I remember when you could buy multiple rolls for like $9, $10, $11. Those days are gone.
Sure. And you probably also remember when you could get a good used car for under $10,000, and now, that costs $20,000. You probably also remember, Rich, that you used to be able to own your own home, and that was kind of the standard thing, for Americans, is that they own their own homes. And now more than ever, and especially, I think our generation and younger, they're not owning homes. I mean, they're lifelong renters right now because the cost to buy a home now, combined with the interest rates, is just astronomical right now. So, yeah.
I'm with you on that one. Now, Bryan Leib, I want to get your take on a number of things, because obviously I know you keep your finger on the pulse of a lot of what's happening internationally. I think that, folks, just to give you context, the last time I saw Bryan Leib, we were in Europe together at the CPAC Hungary. And,
yes, sir. We sure were.
This is an international man of mystery over here, Bryan Leib. So I know he's got his finger on the pulse of things that are going on overseas. And in a minute, we're going to play a clip of the bass player from Pink Floyd, who got into a little bit of a confrontation with Piers Morgan. And we're going to talk about that on the way back. Folks, if you want to join the conversation, give us a call. 833-482-5337 is the phone number. 833-4-VALDEZ. Of course, we're coming back with our guest, Bryan Leib.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
By the way, your ratings are up. Congratulations. It's always nice to check. I like to see, even if they're friends, I like to see how are they doing. Are people listening, right?
That's
right. But you're doing great.
America at Night with Rich Valdez.
And all the filthy, disgusting lies that the Israelis told after October the 7th.
Like what?
About burning babies and women being raped, which were all completely...
Actually, women were raped.
No, they weren't.
Yes, they were.
Well, there's no evidence.
It's been established by the United Nations.
You can say anything that you want, but there's no evidence.
But actually, there is extensive evidence.
There is no evidence.
Sexual assault and rape. Well, there is.
Okay, well, all right, now...
Also, we know what Hamas broadcast on social media.
Calm down. Roger. Calm down. Don't sink to his level. All right, I won't.
What level?
Well, stop shouting. Stop shouting back. Let him interrupt you as much as you want. Okay. All right. Sorry, Piers. What were you saying?
What a weirdo. What an absolute weirdo. That, again, is Roger Waters, the bass player from the rock band Pink Floyd. and he calls Israel filthy and disgusting, saying they're lying about Palestinians burning babies and raping women. What is wrong with this guy? My mother around, she would say, ¿Qué le pasa a este? What is this guy's deal? Anyway, I want to get to the bottom of this because this is something that I think is, again, doesn't surprise me that you have Hollywood liberals that side with the enemy, but I just find it interesting that he would get to so angry about it. Like, what do you care? Anyway, Bryan Leib, when you hear this, I don't know if you're a big fan of Roger Waters and Pink Floyd, but what are your thoughts here?
Well, definitely not a fan of Roger Waters and or Pink Floyd anymore. Rich, Roger is one of the most well-known anti-Semites in the world at this point. He is constantly doing everything that he can to slam Israel. He has been very active in the BDS movement, the Boycott, Divestment, Sanctions movement, which seeks to only boycott the world's only Jewish state. And I think it was just last year, actually, in Germany, where Roger Waters decided to open up one of his performances dressed in a Nazi Gestapo outfit with a fake machine gun, reenacting like Nazi Germany killing Jews. So, listen, Roger is a deranged individual. Everyone knows this about him. And, he's, part of this. I hate to even admit this, but I'm always honest with you. Roger's part of this growing movement throughout the world that really just seeks to spread absolute lies about the state of Israel. And, Roger wants to talk about how, Israel's lying about babies that were burned or people that were beheaded. Well, listen, Rich, and for everyone in the audience listening, I was in Israel in January. I saw firsthand exactly the brutality of what Hamas did. I watched videos. I saw the videos of them throwing grenades into bomb shelters and cutting heads off. So I don't need people like Roger Waters to try and rewrite history. I saw it with my own two eyes, and so did a lot of other people. But shame on Roger Waters. But I guess this is just par for the course, 2024. I mean, it's insane that we're even having this conversation right now, is it not? I mean,
yeah. Listen, and the BBC, of all places, the BBC is reporting that Hamas is facing growing public dissent as the war in Gaza erodes and loses support. And I didn't think that we'd reach that point. I'm glad that we are. I'm glad that, it's hard to even find some audio on the Hamas war. I think of a week or 10 days ago where we were at no loss of finding any news on that. So it seems to be waning from my perspective. What do you think?
In terms of people supporting Hamas, was that the question?
Yeah, it seems like there's less reporting on it. It seems like there's a general disinterest in it. And my thought is that would lead to a reduction in international support for those that were supporting Hamas, which ultimately I think brings the whole thing to a screeching halt or a snail's pace, at least eventually.
Well, I mean, listen, we have to be honest about the situation, and that, I think Israel, wanted to be a lot more aggressive in responding to what happened on October 7th, and they wanted to, really go in there with a much stronger hand. And unfortunately, in a lot of ways, Israel is still very dependent on the U.S. military for arms, for ammunitions, and they didn't go in as strong as maybe they could have or should have, and a lot of that had to do with the Biden administration really handcuffing the Israelis, at every single turn. So, but what we see now is Israel is coming into the final phases of the operation in Rafah, which is where it's the last holdout inside of the Gaza Strip that Hamas is still active in. So we're coming to the end of that, and what a lot of people are now following very closely, Rich, is what potentially could happen and develop on Israel's northern border, Lebanon's southern border, and Hezbollah. Hezbollah is much more sophisticated, has a lot more resources than Hamas does. And of course, listen, you and I have talked about this many times over the years, Rich. I mean, when you look at Hamas or Hezbollah or the Houthis or whoever these radical, Islam terrorist groups around the world, it all comes back to the Islamic Republic of Iran, and right now, the Islamic Republic of Iran has never been stronger than over the last 3.5 years of the Biden administration. When the Iranians are flush with cash, Rich, and they're able to send billions of dollars around the world to terrorist groups. I mean, what do we think is going to be the outcome? I mean, obviously, it's going to be dead, innocent men, women, and children at the hands of radical Islam. And a lot of this comes back to Joe Biden's really just completely failed foreign policies. And I was talking to someone the other day about this, and I said, just tell me one foreign policy victory. I mean, give me even one domestic policy victory that the Biden administration's had. It's pretty tough. It's pretty tough for even a Biden supporter to point to really any victory for these people over the last couple years.
Bryan Leib, you bring up President Biden, and a little while ago I was talking to Congressman Matt Gaetz, and he made a prediction on the show tonight. I want you to hear it. Listen to this.
I'm going to go and make the call on your show. I think we're running against Harris Whitmer. I think they want to make, I think they want the Wicked Witch of the Midwest. And she was like the lockdown queen. But I think there's going to be a desire to try to make abortion the central issue of this election.
So we've heard President Trump say, I've got him out. I took him out. He believes he's taken Biden out of the race. You've got Gaetz weighing in now saying that he thinks it's going to be Harris, Whitmer. What do you think?
I think Congressman Gaetz is pretty spot on with that. I'm not sure about the running mate, but all signs do point to, at this point, that Kamala Harris is going to step up. I mean, listen, we all watched that debate. We've been watching over the last couple months as Biden's cognitive capabilities have really, unfortunately, really been in the decline. But what we saw last week was just out in the open for everyone to see. I mean, it was painful for the sitting president, the leader of the free world, our commander-in-chief, to really even put a sentence together. So I think, we're at the point now where I think I saw the Boston Globe just a couple hours ago is now calling on Biden to step down. And I think the calls are going to continue to increase for that. He certainly is not capable of carrying out the duties of the office right now, and most certainly is not capable of another 4 years. So, I think Democrats are looking at, they're looking at the odds. They're looking at President Trump, who continues to grow and get stronger by the day. And, what Democrat with any kind of a political future would want to go against Trump at this point? What does that mean? It means we're left with, either Kamala Harris stepping up to be, the good VP and a loyal soldier to her president, or you might see someone like Gavin Newsom come from the outside. But you're not going to see kind of any of these best and brightest, Democrats that want to run for president, because it's just an uphill battle for them at this point. But I think Congressman Gaetz' prediction is pretty good, and I do think you're going to see Kamala Harris emerge from all of this as the new Democratic presidential nominee. Honestly, I think that just that makes Trump's reelection even that much more inevitable.
Folks, Bryan Leib from Henry PR, henrypr.com. Bryan Leib, I want to thank you for being with us. You're a gentleman, a scholar, and a patriot.
Thank you so much, Rich. You are the gentleman, follower, and a patriot. It's always an honor to be on with you. Have a great evening.
Thanks, brother. I appreciate that. Folks, we're coming right back. We continue our discussion. Lots to talk about. Don't go anywhere. I'm Rich Valdez.
Rich Valdez, who again will do a fine job, and I know you'll enjoy listening to him.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, amigos, welcome back. Rich Valdez with you till 1 a.m. Eastern Time. Happy to be with you. We're kicking off Independence Day weekend this weekend, and I want to wish everybody a very blessed Independence Day. And I want to talk about something because Independence Day falls on a Thursday. Then there's Friday. I happen to be off on Thursday and Friday. And I think a lot of people take Fridays off in the summer, Mondays off in the hour. In some places, they call it summer hours. Some companies will give you the day off or a half day on a Friday, you know, let's say, I don't know, from the end of Memorial Day through Labor Day. You know, call that their summer and give you summer hours. I think it's an amazing perk. I used to work in a place that was about 90 minutes from my home. So it was great to be able to have those summer hours because I didn't have to go in all the time. So, yeah, super. I liked it. It's super. I think a lot of people like it. But I want to get to the bottom of it because I think a lot of people are wondering, should every company go to summer hours in order to boost employee morale or help combat some of the burnout that they may be experiencing? And I want to get the take of Maya Ratcliff. She's a small business owner and the founder of Hawaii Fluid Art. Maya Ratcliff, welcome.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
It's my pleasure. So let's talk about this. Do you, in your travels as a small business owner, do you find that this is a major struggle of any of your colleagues in the small business owner space, that they really want to go to summer hours, or their employees are really kind of chomping at the bit trying to get those summer hours? Or is it kind of innocuous and nobody really cares and, you know, it's preference?
I really think that it depends on the industry. For instance, if you are a yard care service, it's very hard to be able to offer Fridays off to your team because, well, you're busy, you're booked, and you really need to attend to those yards. But let's say, for instance, you're a mid-level business that really can afford to allow your team members or employees to take full days off, partial days off, or rotating days off. For us personally, we allow people to take time off when they need it because they may need a Monday or a Wednesday off rather than a Friday. So it really just depends on the industry.
Now, would you say that more and more employers are doing this at this point because people are still burnt out from COVID and from anything else, and to avoid burnout, they're doing this summer hour offer?
I do think that people are having a hard time adjusting after COVID. Some of us are dealing with having to commute for a long time. And different businesses have to do different things to help their employees settle back into life after COVID. Some of those things can be team building events. Some of them can be lotteries for days off. Some of them can be commuting help. Even some companies have gone to offering on-site childcare. Once again, depending on the industry, really depends on what can be done. For instance, you can't let sweeping Fridays happen across the nation because what happens if you need to dial 911 and the operators all have Friday off? It's just not realistic in the United States at this time.
I'm just trying to figure out the disadvantage, right, for an employer to not offer summer hours. I guess if you have a high volume of work, then you can't say, hey, everybody take Friday off or take a half day on Friday. But it seems to me, especially in a difficult economy, Maya Ratcliff, it makes sense to me that you would say, I think you should. I think you really should take this time off and kind of help your employees out to build that morale. Doesn't that make sense?
It really does. And depending on the type of job that you have, and if you can get your work done Monday through Thursday, or if you can get a half day off, et cetera, or maybe just work from home Fridays, depending on the atmosphere and the environment of the workplace, some people don't want to take a Friday off because they love being at work. It just really depends on the culture, the employee, and the industry.
Yeah, I think that makes a lot of sense. I'm one of those people. I have the ability to work rather remote, and I'd much rather be in a studio with the control room and all the people and, you know, water coolers and all of it. And, you know, there's a report from the Society for Human Resource Management, and I want to get to some of the facts and figures that were in this report because it came out in May, so, you know, just a month or 2 months ago, and it shows 44% of the 1,400 people that were surveyed, which are U.S. employees, feel burnt out at work. and 45% of them feel emotionally drained from their work, and 51% of them feel used up at the end of the workday. Now, I would imagine we all feel used up at the end of the workday, right? You went to work, you're tired, you're spent. But with numbers like this staring you in the face, wouldn't it make sense for most employers to pause and say, you know what, let's figure out the right way to attack this, or am I asking for too much?
No, I think you're 100% right on. I think that the majority of employers out there need to realize that their employees are the face of their company. Their employees and team members are the ones that actually generate the revenue for these big companies. And rewarding our team members for a job well done is vital and necessary. But there's so many different ways that we can give back to our team, to our employees, simple things, team building events, like I said, lotteries for time off, childcare paid, commuting expenses covered. And one of the things that we do, which I think really helps our team, is we have an emergency fund. So if somebody gets a flat tire, that might not be a big deal to some people. To other people, that extra $200 expense can completely disrupt their work-life balance. It's just something that employers really need to do, is put themselves in the shoes of their team members. If you're not making $200,000 a year, like a lot of big bosses are, have some compassion for the people that are out there struggling to work on a daily basis to make your company a better place for the customers and for their coworkers.
Makes a lot of sense to me. Folks, we're on with Maya Ratcliff. She's a small business owner, founder of Hawaii Fluid Art. And we're going to come back and wrap up on this topic and get some of her additional insight. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. Voted best head of hair in live late night radio 6 years in a row. It's Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
All right, America, welcome back. Amigos, Rich Valdez with you till 1 a.m. Eastern Time. Our phone number, 833-4-VALDEZ. Our guest, Maya Ratcliff. She's a small business owner. And there are a lot of small businesses that can't compete with big businesses, but they want to compete for talent and they want the best person for the job. So they have to come up with creative ways. And one of the creative ways that they have is to offer a better pay and better benefits, or to offer more perks and a competitive pay. And ultimately, I think young people want the path of least resistance, but that doesn't mean that they won't try something else. Just like anybody else, even a seasoned professional is going to do their best to take these summer hours. So I think it makes sense for small companies to say, hey, look, we're not going to give you any extra money, but we're going to give you the best summer hours package, you know, whether you're a boomer or you're Gen Z. Hopefully you'll like it. Maya Ratcliff, from your experience, does this transcend the generations, or do most people, is there a big number of people out there, or a growing number of people that are like me, that are like, no, I don't want to take off. I want to work.
There's definitely a difference in the generations. So the younger generation expects more from their employers. They expect additional time off. They expect more money. They expect the perks. Where people in, my age range, in mid-50s, are more gritty. I'm not sure how else to put it, but they understand that work is important. They don't complain as much, and they don't expect as much. And there's definitely a vast difference among those generations.
Yeah, that makes sense. Now, Maya Ratcliff, I want you to tell us a little bit about how you're handling this in your firm. Is this something that applies to you? Are you doing summer hours? Does it bother you? What are your thoughts?
So depending on the week, depends on what our team and staff does. So I'm involved in franchising. So we have stores all over the United States. And depending on the area, really depends on the work times. You know, is it 11 to 7? Is it 9 to 4? And what we support at our business is not only additional days off when needed, but we have things that give back to the team. Even simple things like take an actual lunch hour, leave, get away from your desk, go have lunch, take a little walk, you know, regroup a little bit, to bringing in masseuses that do chair massages once a month. Yeah. We do coloring contests. It's simple things to let the employees and the team members know they are appreciated.
Yeah, and, you know, I think if you don't do stuff like that, if people feel like they're just underappreciated, eventually they want to leave. Right? It doesn't even matter sometimes how good the money is. Some people would rather make less money and be happy than make a little bit more money and not be happy and be miserable. You know, at least that's been my experience. Do you think that that's still accurate, or is that just something that applies to like Gen X people like me?
No, I think it's 100% accurate. I myself, in the past, when I was working for other companies, I might have been making great money, but if my leader or the person that was supposed to be a leader was not a good person to work for, didn't appreciate the service that I provided, or was flat out disrespectful, then I would be happy to take less money to work someplace where I was appreciated and that they did the extra special things. So I knew that they appreciated my work, my effort, etc.
Makes sense to me. Maya Ratcliff, let everybody know how they can find you and keep up to speed with all the work that you're doing.
Well, they can look at hawaiifluidart.com or send an email to info@hawaiifluidart.com, and they can get put on our list for emails and newsletters.
Outstanding. Maya Ratcliff, I want to thank you for being with us. I appreciate it.
Thank you so much, and have a wonderful evening.
You too. Have a great Independence Day. So, folks, we're going to come right back to the rest of your calls. We got calls from Dallas, Texas, Boise, Idaho, and more coming in. Plus, we've got Open Phone America just around the corner at the top of the hour. 833-4-VALDEZ, 833-482-5337.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S. Call now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
Democratic Party, Democrats will come together unified out of the convention and move forward and do everything we can do to win. I know Vice President Kamala Harris well. And yes, you mentioned I was the first member of the Congressional Black Caucus, probably the first member of Congress to support her when she ran for president. I mean, she's prepared. She's been our vice president. Who else? But we are confident that President Biden, his decision is his decision. And if it's a Biden-Harris ticket, then Democrats will circle the wagons and support the Biden-Harris ticket. And that's what we have to do. But I would always say, because I know her well and I've seen what she has done, and I know what she would do in the future. And I did support her when she ran for president before, but that's not even the issue. The issue is winning, and the issue is making sure Donald Trump does not win in November.
That's always the bottom line. Make sure Trump loses. Anyway, I want to get to your calls and your thoughts on exactly this topic. I see we got calls coming in on this. Let's go to Edward, Dallas, Texas, streaming us on richvaldez.com. Edward, go right ahead.
Hey, Rich, good evening. Those liberal tears are so delicious. I can't wait to keep having more. But, yeah, I wanted to talk about President Trump set out some truths, I think 2 days ago or maybe yesterday, about doing televised military tribunals for treason, which, of course, people found guilty or then executed, for Liz Cheney, other members of the J6 committee, Mark Milley.
Where did you hear this?
He sent it out on Truth Social.
I didn't see that. I'll have to. Yeah, I follow Trump. I haven't seen any of that. I've never heard Trump calling for military tribunals of any kind. That's not something we've ever been able to fact check or prove or anything like that. And the reason being because under the Constitution of the United States, you can't use military law for civilians. You just can't, right? So Liz Cheney is a member of Congress. She's a civilian. She's a politician. She can't go before a military tribunal. Doesn't matter if she's committed treason or anything else. If she sold secrets to the enemy, it doesn't matter, right? We have a court of law for people like that. So that's just a non-starter. It wouldn't happen. That's the type of thing that happens in banana republics, but not something that's going to happen in the United States. And of course, we're talking about a guy like Trump, right? Trump is somebody who ran and was talking about build a wall, build a wall, build a wall, and built a wall. On the other hand, the crowd was screaming, lock her up, lock her up, lock her up. Did Trump ever in his 4 years in office, did he ever make a move to lock up Hillary Clinton? Ever? Of course not. And when he's asked about it, he says that he never intended to go after her. Right? He thinks she's bad. She should go to jail, but he's not going to be the one to put her in jail. So I think we've seen Trump. Trump doesn't like war. He doesn't need this conflict. He wants to end this conflict. Right? He's a pacifist. He doesn't want war. He wants peace. So he can build a building and make some money. And I don't hate him for that. I love that about Trump. So I think that you might have seen an account that wasn't official on Truth Social with somebody suggesting military tribunals and whatnot, but not likely, very unlikely to happen. Edward in Dallas, Texas, thank you for your call. I appreciate it. Let me see. Where do we go from here? Let's go to Paul, Meridian, Mississippi, listening on WALT. Paul, go right ahead. You're on with Rich Valdez.
Yes, sir. I wanted to say something about some of the problems that have happened with the immigrants that have came in. And, it's not anything against them immigrants per se, but what's been happening is so many of them that came in are people who got released from prisons, people who were members of cartels in some of the Central South American countries.
Right.
They've been in prison. They come over here, and the way of life that they're already accustomed to, they've just carried it over into American society and just created bigger problems.
Right.
And not only that, but they expect to live.
Paul, before we run out of time, I want to ask you, what do you think the solution is?
I think the solution is to screen the people that are coming in just a little bit more closely instead of letting people in that are criminals and everything like that. Look at that and try to prevent them from getting in the first place. I mean, our country is a melting pot. There's no problem on my part as far as somebody who has an ethnic background of any kind.
I think you just got to follow the rules. Make sure you're not a criminal invader, right? Some of these guys that are getting kicked out of jail in Venezuela and coming here and then doing what they, what they feel like doing with women. That's obviously problematic. Paul in Meridian, Mississippi, WALT. Thanks for the call. Folks, we're coming right back. Hour number 3, Open Phone America. I'm Rich Valdez.
Live from the city that never sleeps. 17 miles from Madison Square Garden, New York City. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez, America's favorite late night talk program, featuring interesting guests from around the world and calls from across America. And now, here is your host, Rich Valdez.
Hi there, good evening, and what's up, America? I am Rich Valdez, Valdez with an S, at Rich Valdez on all of the social media. Welcome to hour number 3 of the program. It is the Wednesday night edition. We're kicking off Independence Day weekend here. Happy 4th of July. Happy birthday, America. The phone number, if you want to join us, 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. Get your calls in early because this is one of those evenings where I don't want you to be on hold in the final segment of the end of the show. But I do want to get your thoughts on a number of things. We've got rumors out there that Joe Biden will be stepping aside, making way for Kamala Harris, the Vice President of the United States. Kamala Harris. You guys know her. Kamala Harris, Kamala. And I'm thrilled, honestly. I'm thrilled because Biden obviously is the easier target, but I think Kamala's going to be more fun. You know, when she says things like, I don't know, let's see. She says, I don't know, I'm going to make this one up, but you get the gist. Well, when we have a president that has served as the commander-in-chief because he lived in the White House and fulfilled the duties of the Oval Office the way that this man did when he was serving as president, we've got a problem. And her circuitous conversations where she does nothing but describe things and say absolutely nothing known to the media as a word salad is just going to be great. I mean, I'm going to be sitting here on the sidelines saying, oh, my goodness, ay, bendito. So, I don't know. I think it's going to be a lot of fun, personally. This is a woman who could never really make it out of the first round of running for president. So, vamos a ver. We shall see. But there's a few things I want to get into. There's a campaign ad out there that I want you to hear that talks about who is going to pick up the phone at 3 a.m. Will it be... I'll let you make the decision on who it's going to be. Listen to this.
It's 3 a.m. and your children are safe and asleep. But there's a phone in the White House and it's ringing. Something's happening in the world. Your vote will decide who answers that call.
I don't know. There's a lot of people who are concerned about Joe Biden.
He kind of bumps along, kind of Mr. Magooing his way through this.
There were some answers, Shannon, that were word salad. I mean, they were just all over the map.
I don't know.
Of course, that's Joe El Baboso Biden. Joe El Baboso Biden seemingly looking for the next word. And listen, that happens to me. That happens to everybody. But come on. It shouldn't happen that often and be that severe. He looks lost. He sounds lost. He goes off shuffling, shaking hands with the Easter Bunny and open air. And it's not a good look. So where does that leave us? Well, that leaves us with Congressman James Clyburn saying, well, I don't know what's going on there, but I do know Biden's doing great. Biden's in the tip-top shape of his life. He's got the best candidates ever. Listen to this.
Have you personally noticed a decline in the president in the last several months?
Not in my one-on-one meetings with him. I saw what I saw last Thursday night, and it is concerning. I said that the very next morning. But in my one-on-one discussions with him, no, I have not seen that. And if you recall, I did spend some time with him, especially at the ceremony with the Presidential Medal of Freedom. I did not see any decline.
And do you have any concerns about his abilities moving forward?
I saw what I saw Thursday night, and as I said, I saw that as being concerning. And that's why I want to see at these town hall type meetings, to see his interaction with the public, with the media looking in, and we having the benefit of those media meetings. If we can have the benefit of that, I think that it will satisfy a lot of people.
That is Congressman James Clyburn saying that Biden's sharp. His choice of candidate for VP, Kamala Harris, is also sharp. He's ready to go. And I think the whole thing is lunacy. I think Biden's in bad shape, and anybody who's rocking with Biden is in bad shape. But I want to get your thoughts on that and more as we work our way through Open Phone America this evening. The phone number is 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. Let's see. Where do we go? Let us go to... Let's go to Gil, Manila, Philippines, listening online, richvaldez.com. Gil, go right ahead.
Well, happy 4th of July.
Yes, sir. Happy birthday, America. Here. Thank you, sir.
And I bet you didn't know that this is a holiday in the Philippines. It's called Filipino-American Friendship Day. So.
Wow. I did not know that.
So, when the Philippines became independent in 1946, they celebrated their Independence Day on July 4th, but subsequent events made the president here change it to June 12th, which was when they became independent from Spain. So we have two different Independence Days. But anyhow, I wanted to talk to you about this Julian Assange thing that our Justice Department did. It's a complete miscarriage of justice. They let him go for time served in a British jail, which is really not too hard time. And he's back now in Australia. When the crime was first committed, it was done by Bradley Manning, who was in the U.S. Army, who gave over thousands and thousands of classified documents to Assange's WikiLeaks. He was tried and convicted and sentenced to 35 years in prison. President Obama commuted the sentence. He wasn't pardoned, but he was let go after 7 years.
Then he became a woman.
Jim, that's right. Jim Bohannon and I were up in arms about this because Jim had the same job in Vietnam that Bradley or Chelsea Manning had in Iraq, and to give over all of this classified information is actually treason, and she could have gotten the death penalty. And we were very much up in arms about it at the time. But Assange got off. He's now back in Australia, and I think that we should have held out to have him extradited to the States because he deserved to be put on trial in the States and held accountable for leaking all of this classified information.
Yeah. Listen. Yeah, I hear what you're saying, and it's interesting. It's not the only case like that we've seen. We've seen a few, I'd say, in the last few years. Interesting cases where we're like, man, how does that happen? Why is this happening this way? The only answer I have is that's exactly what they wanted to happen, and somebody's getting protected by somebody that's high up, because otherwise it wouldn't work that way, right, Gil?
Well, I tend to agree with you, but I wanted to add that the reason that Bradley Manning, when he went to trial, said he did this, it was not because he believed in another cause. It was because he was ridiculed by his fellow soldiers because he liked to walk around in women's clothing in a war zone. Now, that's pretty funny when you're Jamie Farr on MASH and you're playing Klinger, but when you have to worry about the guy next to you covering your back, you wonder how well he will do it when he's dressed in a strapless gown. So
scary. Not scary that they want to wear a strapless gown. Scary that one is focused on these things on a battlefield. Dangerous place, right?
That's right. But anyhow, I want to wish you and our wonderful country a great 4th of July, and we'll be talking in the future about the Democrats' new candidate.
That's right.
If you recall, one of your guests recently predicted it would be Hillary Clinton, because she's got a whole campaign structure that she can revitalize very quickly and get going.
Yeah.
So we will see.
Yeah, I think that was Dick Morris, right, that predicted that, and a while back, and I think now he's landed on Biden. We've got Congressman Matt Gaetz saying it's going to be Kamala Harris, along with President Trump saying the same thing, and Gaetz took it as far to say, as his prediction, that it will be with the running mate of Governor Gretchen Whitmer. I don't know if that's how it's going to play out or not. I'm not saying I don't think it's true. I'm just saying I don't know if it's entirely accurate, because we don't know one's proclivities for running with another person, et cetera, right? So these people may not get along. That may not happen. But one thing I do know is some slapshod, hastily put together ticket is not going to yield tremendous results for the Democrats when they really, really need. All right, Gil, thank you, brother. Happy Independence Day to you. We're getting back to the rest of your calls and more straight ahead. 833-4-VALDEZ, 482-5337.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. This is America. This is Night. This is Rich Valdez.
You gave me so much. How did I do with the debate the other night?
Oh, fantastic.
He kicked that old broken down pile of crap.
Yeah.
It's a bad guy. He just quit, He's quitting the race.
Is that right?
Yep, I got him out of the race. And that means we have Kamala. I think she's going to be better. She's so bad. She's so pathetic.
It's so amazing.
It's just so bad. So
I just can't imagine.
But can you imagine that guy dealing with Putin and the president of China, who's a fierce person? He's a fierce man.
Right.
A very tough guy, and they see him. They probably he can't. But they just announced he's probably quitting.
Good.
Very good.
Yeah, that's amazing.
Just keep knocking him out, right?
Thank you, Thomas.
That is former President Trump on the golf course today, saying that he thinks he's taken Biden out and that they're going to replace Biden with Kamala, and how he can't wait to run against Kamala because she's pathetic. I want to get your reactions to this and everything else we're talking about. 833-482-5337, 833-4-VALDEZ. Let us go to the phones. Walter, St. Augustine, Florida, WFOY. Walter, go right ahead.
Yeah, Rich, much thanks to you and Alex for running such an intelligent program and taking the calls like you do.
Thank you, sir.
You're welcome. Rich, not to put Reagan down in any way, but try to explain why Trump's still the best in modern times. Reagan dealt with Gorbachev. Gorbachev wanted to cut nuclear weapons. Trump had to deal with Putin. And Reagan-era Iran had its hands full with its war with Iraq. And Trump had to control Iran thanks to Obama's $150 billion donation to Iran.
Mm-hmm.
Trump's the only president that ever visited North Korea, the only U.S. president to do so. And I got to give you a point here. Not many people know, but Rich, believe it or not, Reagan and Bush 1 actually cut veterans' benefits with the means test. They had to show financial needs. And Trump gave the veterans a choice program. So I'm just wondering what you thought of that, Rich.
Yeah, I don't really think much of it. I don't think Reagan's on the ballot. I think Trump is on the ballot. And I think what we've really got to focus on is how do we beat the other side? And this is, this is ours to lose, in my opinion. We've really got to get at the Democrats. We've got to figure out the strategy to get past Kamala Harris, to get past. And I don't think it's going to be a piece of cake, but I think it's totally doable, right? I agree with Trump. She's a disaster with the word salad, with the approach, with the way she just does things in general. I think she'd be an incredibly humorous candidate to run against. And Trump does well in that environment of running against people he can make fun of. So that's what I think about her on that front. I think there's also a lack of substance when it comes to policy that she really can't meet eye to eye on. So the long and short of it is, I think I agree with you. Trump has been solid on veterans' benefits. He's been solid on a number of things. I think we need to keep beating the drum because looking in the rearview mirror isn't going to help. Looking at things that we like that can't help us win isn't going to help us win. We've got to stay focused on, eye on the prize type of thing. And I think that's what's going to get us across the finish line. Walter, St. Augustine, Florida, thank you for your call. Shout out to you and, of course, your affiliate there, WFOY. Let us continue. Where do I want to go here? Diane, Chicago, Illinois, WGN Country. Diane, go right ahead.
Okay. Hi, Rich.
Hi.
I just wanted to say hi. I'm outside here. I was taking a walk by Wrigley. There was a game tonight, so I just sort of just be among my fellow human beings, in a crowd, just looking around. And there was on the way back, where I'm walking toward home, there were there's these little toddlers, the migrants sitting with the money thing, amongst the crowds, and then on the sidewalk. But these little kids, it's after 11 here, and these are like 3-year-olds. And I saw twice, asking. But this is all over the loop. But anyway, I just wanted to say about the immunity thing. The Supreme Court, by the time it gets to the Supreme Court, I think they're going to have to rule that a president has immunity for what he deems are official acts, period. Because they can't lead otherwise. So ultimately, they'll have to find a ruling, but it'll be far in the future where it gets back to the Supreme Court. But I think they're going to have to rule in favor of what the founders would believe, because if you have a very bad president and is so horrible, he's making all kinds of weird things, well, he's there 4 years. The people can notice it. The media will notice it, and it'll be extreme, and then that'll be that. It'll be some kind of other thing then. But you have to cross that bridge when you come to it. But anyway, another thing about Biden.
Well, before we get into that, I got to take a pause here, Diane. Thank you for your call. And I agree with you. You got to call a spade in this situation. And I think that's what we're missing in this conversation. Diane, thank you for the call. Shout out to WGN, Chicago in the building. Folks, we continue with the rest of your calls from Vermont, Montana, Missouri, Maine, Ohio, California, and more. I am Rich Valdez, coming right back. Don't go anywhere.
Now, 833-4-VALDEZ. That's 833-482-5337. 833-4-VALDEZ. That's Valdez with an S.
Now, I'm not sure if everybody here had the opportunity to listen to the show since we started it at 10 o'clock Eastern time 2.5 hours ago. But our guest was Congressman Matt Gaetz, and he made a prediction on the program. I have a clip of it. Listen to this.
I'm going to go and make the call on your show. I think we're running against Harris Whitmer. I think they want to make, I think they want the Wicked Witch of the Midwest. And she was like the lockdown queen. But I think there's going to be a desire to try to make abortion the central issue of this election.
That is Congressman Matt Gaetz, our guest, who was on in the 10 o'clock hour. And if you didn't listen to it live, shame on you. But guess what? You can redeem yourself by going to richvaldez.com, Rich Valdez with an S at the end.com, and listen to the entire interview absolutely free. You can share it with your friends. You can do all sorts of things. And if you like it a lot, subscribe to the podcast so you never miss an episode. Anyway, I want to continue with your calls. 833-482-5337. I want to get your thoughts. What do you think about Joe Biden and his potential hiatus from running for president? Anyway, give me your thoughts. Let's see. Where do we go? I want to go to Kyle calling from Los Angeles, California. Go right ahead. KPRL.
Hi, Rich. I heard that call earlier about Trump's Truth Social is calling for televised military tribunals. That's totally true. Why did you cover up for him?
That's what I do, sir. I'm a paid shill. I cover up for him. Thank you. Next.
To be.
What?
Yeah, you seem to be. Why do you do that? He totally.
Why? They pay me pretty good for it.
Commenting on the.
I haven't seen it. I can't comment on something I haven't seen.
Seems like it was convenient not for you to see that. It was covered.
It's very convenient. I'm trying to win an election.
Right. By lying to people and covering things up.
It's not a lie. I give you my opinion. I haven't seen it. I said I haven't seen it.
It's normal to call for military tribunals?
I haven't seen it. Do you think it's normal?
No, not at all. It's horrible.
So? Good.
So you ought to cover these things. Trump says lots of incendiary, awful, crazy things, and you don't do anything about it.
It's not my job to cover wild, incendiary things that Trump says.
Okay, so whatever you don't like, you don't cover, but the stuff you do like, you cover?
Exactly. I curate the things that I think. I'm going through the Truth Social while we're talking right now. I haven't seen it. Not once. Still sounds fake, phony, and fraud to me.
You're full of it. He sent it out like 2 days ago.
Yeah, well, I don't see it. If I find it, I will play it, or I'll read from the transcript of it and give you the context of it, but I haven't seen it. And listen, I think military tribunals, we had them after the World War. They seemed appropriate at the time. I don't see a situation where we're going to need a military tribunal now. I have never, ever, ever in the, 2015, 16, 17, in the years that I've been covering Trump and everything he said, I've never heard of these things. So what I can tell you that I've seen and that I know, oftentimes when you hear things like, for example, the cut that we have today, we have a Trump cut from today where he says, that she's a very fierce man. He's a fierce individual. This will likely be spun against him to say Trump praises she as fierce. I heard the audio. I seen the video. He wasn't saying that she was, it wasn't praise. I think he's saying this is an adversary that you have to respect. Just like the audio clip of there are fine people on both sides. He wasn't talking about the neo-Nazis being good people, right? So things are taken out of context on Trump all the time. So you have to go the extra mile to really sell me. If you want to call here and do some sort of gotcha on me, I'm the wrong guy to play with because I like Trump. I think Trump is the right guy for America. And in you tell me, oh, he had sex with a porn star, I'll say, he says he didn't. I take his word for it. Next, I'm not interested. I'm really not. I'm not looking to hire a pastor. I'm looking to hire a president. Now, in the situation that we have now, again, I still don't see anything on Truth Social calling for military tribunals. So it leads me to believe that it's like everything else where they said some general that's unnamed and won't go on the record says Trump called everybody suckers and losers. And then you have Biden, the president of the United States, out there echoing this, saying, yeah, he called the veterans and the troops and those that lost their lives suckers and losers. Well, guess what? There isn't any proof for that either. So if we're going to sit here and go with these hearsay allegations that because you're saying something's on Truth Social that I haven't seen, what do you expect me to do? sit here and go, oh, my God, unbelievable. I'm never voting for this guy again. This guy didn't have the best economy of my adult lifetime. This guy didn't do the best thing for this country. He didn't solidify the military and put the right amount of money into the military, appeasing the military-industrial complex without getting into any new conflict. Trump has done a myriad of things that he deserves praise for, and I'm happy to see another Trump presidency. So Kyle in Los Angeles, who's very upset that I like Trump and will defend Trump and I am pro-Trump, what do you want me to do with all that?
Well, thanks for turning down the volume on me before. But, Trump is terrific. Did you like when he exchanged love letters with Kim Jong-un?
I thought that was actually very endearing. There's a large photo of it that hangs in the 45 Wine and Whiskey bar in Trump Tower. And you see the two men shaking hands as he's the first president to go out there and greet the guy. And ultimately, it's tomato, Kyle, right? It becomes a situation of, do I think that it's horrible for the president of the United States to shake hands with a despot and make nice with him? Or do I think Trump was showing leadership in reaching across the DMZ to Kim Jong-un and doing what he did? It's all a question of perspective. What has happened since? What threat has this nation posed to us? Right? I think ultimately you look back in retrospect with hindsight being 20/20 and you realize, I may not like this guy, but his calculations were correct. Now you look at the alternative, Joe Biden, the calculations are never correct. He's wrong every time. He killed an innocent family after he botched a withdrawal from Afghanistan, did a drone strike and killed an entire family that was emptying water out of their car. How do you defend any of this? Kyle, I think you're in a losing situation just because you don't like Trump and you don't like me.
By the way, suckers and losers was said by John Kelly, but he's a deep stater, right?
Okay, so John Kelly says he said it. Trump says he didn't say it. What do I do with that?
Yeah,
I say I'm automatically going to believe John Kelly?
Yeah, why would I believe a decorated war veteran over President Bone Spur?
Why wouldn't I? You see, that's the point. It's the same coin. It's one side of heads, the other side is tails. Because you have a disdain for him and because I have an affinity for him, we're going to be at odds on this. So you need a tiebreaker. You need somebody to come out and say, well, I had my cell phone out and I caught him on camera saying it. Just like he said, Kamala's an effing pathetic. That was on tape. That came out today. I heard it. I saw it. It's real. It's not a deep fake. It's not anything. It's not hearsay. There's a reason they don't accept hearsay in a court of law. Why would I accept it here in the court of public opinion, Kyle? Just because you're butthurt over Trump?
Do you have a PhD in turd shining?
No, sir, but it sounds like you do a really good job slobbing the knob. So get off mine. Have a good one. We're going to go to more calls straight ahead.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. He's brown, he's bald, and he's breaking it down. It's America at Night with Rich Valdez.
So according to some of the haters out there, I have a PhD in spit-shining turds. I would say spit-shining turds like our buddy Kyle in California, who is a dissenter, and I love those. And this Truth Social post that they're talking about doesn't exist, right? This is Trump retruthing someone else that said something like Liz Cheney's guilty of treason. Or somebody that said, retruth if you want televised military tribunals. And he hits the retweet button on his own social media platform, Truth Social. And these are all in response to people that are saying they should be going to jail on Monday, not Steve Bannon. But of course, like a good leftist that hates Trump, they go ahead and spin it out of control because that's what they do. And then they try to take you down with them. Thankfully, I've been in this rodeo for a little bit, and I know the type. But I'm going to go to Joe. She's in the Lake of the Ozarks. Go right ahead, Kate. KRMS.
Thank you for taking my call, Rich. And before I get to the comment that I was going to make, I have to make a comment about Kyle because I do listen. I know he's called before. And, I applaud you for giving him the space. I also know the process to go through to get online. So unless he lied to your screener, which they're pretty good, he doesn't even bother to say, well, at least thank you for giving me the time to speak.
Right. To make his case.
But anyway,
Well, thank you for that, Joe. Go right ahead.
I really called about, although he kind of does seg into what I wanted to talk about, because I've been talking to some of my friends. Now, I will readily admit I'm an old dinosaur. I don't like labels. I call myself an equal party basher. And to be honest with you, it kind of pains me that we're down to the two choices that we are. But having said that, it was clear. I literally did watch the debate, which, by the way, most of the people that I've been talking to really didn't take time to watch it. They're just regurgitating what they heard somebody else say on the internet about it. But what really kind of terrifies me more than the actual election, our choices, is that at least probably half of my fellow Americans are just willing to be sheeple and will say things to me like, but you don't understand. He is the only one who can beat Donald Trump. To which I said to them, that can't possibly be true in the entire Democratic Party of the United States of America. Seriously?
Yeah, well, Joe, I think I hear where you're going with this, and I think you're right. If the Democrats were smart, they would have tried to figure out how do we make a deal that could get Michelle Obama into the race. She really is the one that would, at least from some of the matchups we saw, could potentially really give Trump the best competition. And why wouldn't you do that if you are the Democrats? Well, the problem is the Democrats aren't calling the shots here. She is, and she doesn't want to run. It's that simple. They did their time in the White House, and they don't want to do it. They want to make films. They want to write books. They want to make money. And I hear you. It's a terrifying thing to see how the Democrats that are out there are rallying around Biden, but we're also seeing a lot of them jumping ship. And the reality for me, what I see is there isn't much of a shot for any Democrat right now. It's going to be a tough next few months for them. I think they can still pull something out if maybe more calls like Kyle's and other people will start to believe these shenanigans about, Trump calling for military tribunals and whatnot. But those things would have to be real, and there would have to be some meat on the bone there for people to say, you know what, Trump's just a terrible guy. I can't believe this is what we're down to. But the reality is, irrespective of what a lot of people think about Trump, he's got a really solid record to stand on. Not a perfect record, but a very solid one, and one that most people would like to see him replicate, if nothing else, because it was good for their 401k, it was good for their property values, it was good for their portfolio, it was good for the safety and security of this country, it was good for our border. It was just good across the board in so many areas. And, there was some spending that I didn't like, and there was a pandemic I didn't like, and there was listening to Dr. Fauci that I didn't like. But at the end of the day, 3 of the best years out of his 4, 3 of the best years we've seen, probably in my adult lifetime. And I'll take that. I'll take it any day of the week. Joe, Lake of the Ozarks, thank you so much. KRMS, big shout out to you. Call back anytime. Let me see. We continue. We do another. We go to Patrick, Ventura, California. Go right ahead.
How you doing, brother?
Good job, man. How's it going in KVTA?
Oh, we're in California. We got a cut on the coast. We got some cool weather. It's hot everywhere else, but we're just kind of kicking it, enjoying it.
Amen.
All right. So with your Trump comments, absolutely. And what I'm worried about is if we're so worried about who else are they going to pick and who else are they going to put in, I don't think that's a question. They put Biden in because they can control it. I mean, come on, folks. And they're going to let Kamala go in after Biden if he has a problem because they can control her. Why would they want to put somebody in that they wouldn't necessarily have control on? And I get it. Michelle and Barack is a lot of the control. Nobody has any direct ties to it, but I think we all know that. So I think we should take our focus off of that and get it back to talking to everybody and making sure our friends and whoever else we know are
Right.
going to vote.
Making sure, there's a get out the vote operation so people actually show up at the polls, because otherwise all of this is for naught, right? I think you're spot on, Patrick, in Ventura, California, KVTA. Big shout out to you guys. I got to take a pause here. Coming right back, we got the speed round with calls from New York, Montana, Vermont, Ohio, Idaho, and Maine. Don't go anywhere.
This is America at Night with Rich Valdez. America at Night with Rich Valdez.
All right, it's the speed round. Let's go to Syracuse, New York, and check in with John. Go right ahead.
Well, hello and good evening. Thanks for taking the call. You do good work, let me tell you.
Thank you.
I just would like to set that gentleman straight who called in, and he was I guess he was a Trump hater, wouldn't you say so?
Sounded like.
Well, anyway, Trump is a big businessman who did very well in big business. And Trump himself recognizes that fact, and he wants the same opportunities for the rest of America, just like him. Democrats.
I think you're right. Democrats, Republicans alike, everybody wants to do well. And that's what I think people were starting to experience under Trump. And it was getting better each year. You had annual household incomes that were up like $6,500. They're down $6,500. So I think that's a telltale sign of why people are really missing Donald Trump. John in Syracuse, thank you for your call. I continue. Let's go to John in Burlington, Vermont, WVMT, quickly.
Yeah, happy 4th of July.
Thank you, sir. Likewise.
Question for you. Donald Trump's vice president is not going to support him in this next election round. 44 of his cabinet members and sub-cabinet members are not going to support him.
Yeah.
How do you explain that?
I think it's Washington, and I think Trump came to shake things up in Washington. He's a bull in a china shop, and he's breaking the china. I think ultimately people that are used to the pomp and circumstance of government or the entitlement that goes with being a former general or a former this or a former that, he's really broken the mold on those things, and they don't like his unconventional approach. So he threatens the sensibilities of those that are part of the establishment, part of the administrative state, and makes sense that they wouldn't like him, right? John Bolton and many others. So it doesn't surprise me in the least, especially when they sat around doing nothing when he was getting spied on, which was ultimately proven to be true. So it makes sense to me. I'm glad he's got some new people in there with him, and I can't wait to hear who he's got as vice president. John in Burlington, Vermont, thank you for your call, WVMT. Let's see. I don't know if we got a ton of time left, but I wanted to give a quick shout out to Paul in Zanesville, Ohio, WHIZ, Ralph in Burlington, Vermont on WVMT, Frank in Evergreen, Montana, KOFI, Paul in Boise, Idaho, KBOI, and everybody that is going to be celebrating America's birthday. Our independence, our liberation from England, these are things that are signing of the Declaration of Independence, things we don't want to forget, and I don't want to take it for granted as I'm, having hot dogs, hamburgers, steak, and everything else we're going to have. So Godspeed to you all. Thank you for a great week. Enjoy the next couple of days. I'll be back with you Monday. We got some great stuff for you lined up. Hasta la próxima. Take care, good night, and God bless. Happy birthday, America. I'm Rich Valdez.